Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't replace electrolytes because we have to. But what we find out is there are different strategies with hydration and electrolytes that we need to approach, especially under the working conditions that you guys deal with. Okay? Why do we replace these fluids? The first thing, the most overriding thing, is through cardiovascular support. Maintaining your blood pressure so you can push the fluid around where it needs to be. You can get blood flow up to the brain so the brain thinks everything is great and it can function the way it needs to. It can transport the heat away from the core. In other words, all this tissue, all this muscle tissue and things that are generating heat are circulating this blood around. If we don't circulate it and get it out into the extremities, away from the heart and away from the lungs and away from the brain, it will accumulate in the core. And so we need the water in the blood to circulate these things. It carries the heat. It needs to transport nutrients. Okay? Matt's going to talk about food, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. Okay? That stuff goes into the gut, gets absorbed into the bloodstream, and gets transported around the body by water, the plasma in the blood. We also have to be able to generate urine to support kidney functions, or the kidneys die. Okay? And we also have to provide fluid for the loss of heat through sweating. If we can't sweat, we can't cool our body. Okay? So these are the primary cardiovascular support mechanisms that we have to have. And from an acute standpoint, in other words, your ability to jump up from this table and go across town and fight a fire for another hour or two, that's what we worry about the most. You, in an hour's worth of time, even with the tremendous sweat rates you guys have, you're probably not going to lose enough electrolyte to put yourself in jeopardy. Okay? So we kind of put electrolyte intake as a secondary function. It's still required. We still have to do it. Okay? Now, this week is going to be like the week from hell, because they're going to be on your ass from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening. You're going to be working, sweating, losing water, trying to rehydrate, losing electrolyte all day long. Okay? That's a different story. During the course of the days you are going to have to replace electrolytes. You cannot wait and then replace them after the fact. If not, by noon you're going to be cramping up. Okay? Now, I talked to some of the guys from down in Georgia, and we've talked about some of the incidents that have happened in terms of problems associated with this kind of work here and in Texas, or in Georgia and in Texas. And there has been history of firefighters dying during this training. Okay? And this is why. It's this whole issue of dehydration and heat stress. There's also the consequence of when you severely dehydrate your body and then you continue to do heavy muscular work, you generate another problem where the muscle tissue begins to come apart. And you start to dump the protein content of your muscle into the bloodstream. Anytime you damage muscle, in the muscle tissue leaks, it leaks protein from the inside of the muscle. Okay? You probably have heard about things like cardiac enzymes as a result of a heart attack. Same thing. You have a heart attack, your muscle tissue is damaged, your heart muscle tissue is damaged, it dumps the heart version of creatine and some of these other things, these proteins, into the blood, and they can measure them and tell when you had a heart attack because they're released at different stages. The same thing can happen with skeletal muscle tissue. The problem with skeletal muscle tissue is that there is so much skeletal muscle tissue in your body. When that process starts to happen, you dump huge amounts of protein into your blood. And your kidneys cannot handle protein. Okay? And you get into a condition called rhabdomyolysis. Now, and I'm going to pick on the guys from Georgia a little bit. I was talking to these guys last year, and they were talking about this. And I said, well, you know, what are the kind of the problems you've had? Well, we haven't killed anybody like they did down in Texas. We've had a few cases of rhabdomyolysis. And it just hit me like a ton of brick. And so, you what? Yeah, here's the problem with that statement. When you generate rhabdomyolysis in somebody, or when it's generated in your body, whether or not you live or die is absolutely in the hand of God. They take you to the hospital, they start flushing your kidneys, they start giving you fluids, they start treating all this stuff, but the damage is done. And if you've done enough damage to your kidneys in that period of time, you're going to die because your kidneys are going to fail. Okay? So once that process starts, you're on a real slippery slope. Once that problem has initiated, you're in trouble. And you may very well die. And if you don't die, it's not going to be because anything you did or anything that you know, one of your paramedic friends helped you on the scene or the doctors did at the hospital. It's just between you and the big guy upstairs. So we have got to prevent those things from happening. How do we do that? Well, the workload is pretty much fixed. So what we have to do is prevent those things from happening by making sure we win this battle with dehydration. Okay? So, let's answer some of these questions. Okay? Yep, I keep going the wrong way here. So what's the goal we need to achieve? Well, for volume support, how do we do that? The primary component is water. We got to get water into the system. Okay? And we know why, because of those things that we just talked about. We've got to maintain our circulating blood volume. We've got to maintain blood pressure. We've got to maintain fluid for sweat and urine, all those kind of things. Electrolytes and nutrients, and I kind of throw all those things together. Ordinarily, like I said, if you're doing a single bout of exercise or a single bout of work that's an hour or so, and then you have plenty of time to recover, electrolytes are not a big problem. But here, or in the situations that we were talking about last year where we had these repeated fires on days when it was really hot, we do have to concern ourselves with electrolytes, and we do have to replace them. Well, how do we replace electrolytes? We can drink things like Gatorade that have electrolytes in them. That's fine. Okay? I'm not a big fan of Gatorade. I think it tastes terrible. But it works. You know, not to promote Gatorade, but Powerade and all those kind of things are basically all the same. Okay? But they will provide you with the proper proportions of water, salt, and sugar. Why do we need the sugar? Why do those things have sugar in them? I guarantee it's not for the taste, because they taste like piss. No. The only way that sodium, an electrolyte, gets from your gut into the bloodstream is through a process called co-transport. You transport 1 molecule of glucose, 2 molecules of sodium. Sodium will not cross into the bloodstream without glucose. When I was a kid, you used to go in the locker rooms at the high school, and hanging on the wall someplace would be a great big dispenser full of salt pills. You guys ever seen salt pills before? They used to give those to the guys in the military and stuff, and it kind of translated into high school athletics and stuff. I don't think more things have killed athletes in the world than salt pills. Because what they did was they just put concentrated salt into your gut, and it couldn't get from the gut into the bloodstream. In fact, it did just the opposite. When that stuff got down into your intestines, it would pull water out of your fluids, out of your bloodstream, and out of the tissue into the gut to dissolve that salt. Okay? It's osmotically active. Same thing with protein. How many of you guys take protein supplements? Protein's the same way. When you take protein supplements, you better be chasing it with a whole lot of water, because protein will do the same thing. If it's a protein in the form that doesn't absorb very easily, it stays in the gut a little bit too long, it'll pull water out of your tissue into the gut and then pass it through. It'll dehydrate you. You just have to be aware of that. I'm not saying don't take protein supplements, but make sure you know what the consequences of those things are. What are some of the other electrolytes we worry about? We said sodium. What else is there? Potassium. People are always cranked up about potassium, and anytime I've ever seen anybody have a cramp, somebody wants to throw them a banana. Here, eat this. You're low on potassium. Bullshit. Where's the first thing hypokalemia or low potassium shows up, Mr. Medic? Right, on your EKG. It's not cramps. Okay, if you're low enough that your potassium is causing a problem with your EKG, you got problems bigger than the muscle cramps. Okay? It's not that it's not important. Potassium's certainly important for muscle contraction, especially in the heart. That's why it affects the EKG so quickly. Magnesium, manganese, chloride, all these things are important. And you can get most of these things through drinking fluids like Gatorades and things like that. But where we get most of our electrolytes is through the food that we eat. Eating a properly balanced diet, lots of fruits and vegetables, gets us lots of fluid and also lots of electrolytes and the glucose to help them transport. So it's kind of the perfect match there, okay? So if you're out there and you're working hard and you're going to a fire once a day and you're getting a little bit dehydrated and that kind of stuff, do you need to worry about, I got to get home and pound some Gatorade? Well, no, probably not. Okay, this week you need to, I would suggest that you drink something with some electrolytes in it. I don't care if it's water or Gatorade or whatever, but you need to be aware of that, okay? And make sure that you're eating the 5,000 calories that they give you every day because it's going to be important. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about I think we've already talked about. Okay, I had a whole bunch of slides, 3 or 4 more slides here that I was going to go through, but I wanted to talk about some specific things and give you some examples here. So let's just talk about this. Ice Mountain. Nobody claimed this one. Okay. Is that what this is? You guys get this out of the tap? Mm-hmm. Very good. Good old Indiana tap water. One of the best things you can drink for electrolyte replacement. Why? Hard water. It's full of minerals. Magnesium, potassium, calcium, all those things are in the water we have here. I see all these little, quote, recreational athletes running around with their Nestle water bottle or their Evian or their Aquafina or whatever. Have you ever looked at the labels on those things? You get a chance, look at them. Those professionally bottled waters are generally purified by a process called reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis removes all of the electrolyte content of that water. It's almost distilled water. Okay? Not what you want to drink for hydration. If you want to drink that at a fire scene because it's there and you need to boost some water volume and you're not too worried about electrolytes, fine. But just make sure that if you think you're replacing electrolytes, that what you're drinking actually have some in it. Okay? What's the problem with drinking too much fluid that has no electrolytes in it? Water can poison. Water is actually poisonous to you. Okay? There's a condition called hyponatremia. Hyponatremia means you don't have enough sodium content in your body. And your nerve cells will not function and you die. It happens a lot to people who are like long distance athletes, ultra endurance athletes who go out and they exercise and exercise and exercise for hours at a time and they don't replace electrolytes the way they should. They just drink, they worry primarily about cardiovascular support and water. And they drink too much water that doesn't have any sodium in it. And it dilutes their blood, it dilutes the sodium and electrolyte content in their blood so much that the nerves and muscles in their body won't work. Their heart stops, their brain stops. Not a good condition to be in, okay? So we do have to drink water and fluid. This week, you need to drink as much water as you can get. And you don't want to binge drink it. You want to drink it like they told you. Drink it. Have this thing with you and sip on that damn thing all day long. Okay? When you come out of an exercise in your turnout gear, and I don't know the protocols, so if I'm stepping on your toes, let me know. I would want you to get out of your turnout gear, or at least out of your turnout jacket, get your helmet off, get your hood off, and get some fluids in you right now. Start that process right now. Okay? You may not be able to replace all the fluids you need before the start of the next evolution, but you're going to improve yourself that much. And do this. Okay? There are things that we absolutely should not drink for rehydration. And you know what they are? Soda pop. Why? It's too acidic. It causes a lot of acid production in the gut. And it causes, when you do that, when you have things that are very concentrated and very acidic, they don't move from the stomach into the small intestine very quickly. And that's where things get absorbed, is in that small intestine. Again, it's not just drinking it, it's taking it in and then absorption. That's the hydration process. Okay, so you have to consider how anything you drink does it. This is one of the big criticisms of things like Gatorade. They're very concentrated, and they don't move from the gut into the small intestine as fast as things like just water does. Even water with, Indiana tap water with electrolytes in it will move faster from the stomach to the gut, but they don't carry quite as much of electrolyte as the others. It should replace, those things are supposed to replace electrolytes a little bit quicker. Okay? So you have to judge for yourself. Have I just completed something where I need to really pound the fluids and electrolytes to get back where I need to be, or get as close to where I am properly hydrated as I can get before the next evolution? That's the thing that you have to decide for yourself. Okay? What else are you not supposed to drink? Pardon?
Alcohol.
No alcohol. Okay? Alcohol dehydrates you. Okay? But in a lot of ways, by replacing water. Fluid and water and alcohol are 100% miscible. In other words, they mix very well. It's very difficult. You have to distill them to separate them. Okay? And so it can go places where you actually want water to go, and it's not capable of carrying the electrolytes and doing the things that water needs to do in those places. What about caffeine? A lot of people preach, oh, you can't have any caffeine. Caffeine has this terrible reputation. Oh, it's a diuretic. Well, it is a diuretic to some extent. If you're a person who drinks caffeine, if you get up in the morning and you drink some caffeinated coffee, then that's not going to hurt you, because you are habituated to that caffeine, and it no longer has that diuretic effect on your body. Now, if you drink 2 liters of Diet Coke a day, or 4 liters of Diet Coke a day, that's a lot of caffeine. Okay? Or if you drink 25 cups of coffee a day, that's a lot of caffeine, and regardless of how habituated you are, that's going to be a diuretic, and that's going to cause you to lose water. Okay? So be sensible about it. If you drink coffee every morning, it's okay. Don't drink 5 cups of it for breakfast. Use some common sense. That's all we ask. What about fruit juices? Things like that. No, absolutely not. Fruit juices contain, and the active sugars in fruit is fructose, and fructose is something that drastically slows down transport from the gut or from the stomach into the small intestine, and really slows down absorption of fluid. It causes water, the water portion of those things, to actually stay in the stomach longer than they need to be. They should be. It won't let them go out because it's too concentrated. So it doesn't make any difference. Orange juice, apple juice, any of those kinds. You can't use those things to rehydrate yourself. Okay? If you want to drink 8 ounces of orange juice in the morning for breakfast, that's fine. It's good for you. Okay? But when you're out here on the fire ground, don't be, you know, chugging from the old apple cider stuff. It's no, because it's going to do just the opposite. It's going to fill you up, bloat you, dehydrate you at the same time, and put you in trouble. Okay. Any other questions about things that we can and can't drink, or should and shouldn't drink, and how much we should drink? You know, it's for a firefighter. Here's the most important thing to understand about hydration. You must report to work properly hydrated, because you never know when that alarm's going to ring. And if you go to work and you've been out the night before and tied one on, and you're coming to work a little bit hungover or a little bit dehydrated, and you're thinking, oh, well, you know, as soon as we get housework done, I'm going to get some breakfast, I'm going to get some fluids in me. And, well, you know, how often does that good intention go bad when the alarm goes off at 8:02, you know? So don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your coworkers, okay? When you have the opportunity to drink fluids on duty, drink them, okay? Drink them. It's the same as any other time that you're out working and you're dehydrating and stuff. It's just that firefighting is this super heat-stressed, dehydrating machine that will put you in the grave if you don't pay attention to it, okay? These same things can happen to you whether you're a firefighter or not, but they're much more likely to happen to you as a firefighter because of the work conditions you're under, okay? A lot of these guys who go out there and suffer fatal heart attacks, you know, we talk about, you know, a lot of to-do about the 40 or 50 heart attacks that we have, fatal heart attacks we have on the fire ground every year in the United States. And that's a shame. It's terrible. Shouldn't happen, okay? There are ways to prevent those kind of things. Do you know how many heart attacks, non-fatal heart attacks, there are on the fire ground in the U.S. every year? Any idea? It's been measured. Well over 1,000 every year, non-fatal heart attacks on the fire ground. Okay? Those are the lucky ones, if you want to look at it that way. Don't have a heart attack to wake up, okay? Don't let that be the thing that wakes you up a little bit. All right. All right, that's all the time I'm going to take for you guys.